Welcome to the Compass Audiocast. I'm your host, Hawa Kambian. Prepare to revisit the compassionate wisdom many of us heard in our youth so that we can mindfully apply it to reimagine a future of work that we can all shape for the better. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for being here. Let us jump right in. So today's quote is, "Take a little time to do whatever makes a happier you." And what this meant when I was 8 was that this was all about the ways that parents help their kids infuse joy into life, whether that's through family time, fun activities, hobbies, whatever. Even the acknowledgement of this was an important aspect of being nurtured as a child for me. When I started working and I looked at this quote, I would start to think it would be great to have a few moments where fatigue, anxiety, and stress are not the center of my universe. During the early hustle years of my career development and work, I started to experience deep symptoms of anxiety. Between wrapping up my studies that had me moving every 4 months to completing my thesis and starting full-time work, I was a wreck. What was worse was that there was very little awareness within myself or the local community around me about my symptoms and their root cause. So what was the problem? I could barely function, let alone work. My thoughts were unclear. I was exhausted all the time. I even remember a Christmas break where sitting up straight to breathe was so exhausting that I spent most of my time lying down, resting to slow down my heart rate and calm myself down. I was constantly on the brink of a panic attack that I didn't understand wasn't a heart attack and was indicative of something being out of balance in my system. And so what did I really want? I mean, at that time, I was so much more concerned about what I wasn't doing at work and how my condition was confusing and holding me back. What was I if I wasn't working? What was I if I wasn't putting all of that extensive education to good use? What was I if I wasn't proving to myself and others that I was doing something of value in the world? I was more concerned about this than I was about what the stress was doing to my body, or about what changes would help improve my situation in order to bring more balance, calm, and stability into my life. I mean, I wanted the discomfort to go, but I didn't want to necessarily have to change to accomplish that. Let's talk bridging. At my lowest point, I had a panic attack during a flight, which is scarier than in normal circumstances because I'm somewhere unfamiliar where I can't easily move around to get help. And so it was very difficult to self-soothe and calm myself down. That was the start of me recognizing that I had to take a step back and acknowledge that my body was speaking up. There was no happiness here, let alone confidence, calm, or comfort. My body was unreliable, and that meant that my capacity to show up anywhere and be my most productive self was also unreliable. I had very little compassion for this part of myself that I didn't and couldn't understand. I mean, if I had had broken bones or a missing limb, there would be no question of what the right response would be. For these anxious episodes, though, I had very little direction or tools. I mean, was consistent energy too much to ask? What about being clear-minded and having positive thoughts? Being human, getting out of bed, and participating takes energy. It takes physical energy to function, mental energy to process my thoughts and ideas and external stimuli, emotional energy to interpret and balance my emotions in a healthy way, and creative energy to interact with the world. I wanted to be able to show up and do work I was excited about and learn, And that's very difficult to do when consciously I felt drained and my body was also subconsciously sending me strange signals that I couldn't interpret as anxiety and panic attacks. And why is this so important for the future of work that we're building? This awareness and acceptance of mental and emotional health fluctuations is huge for individuals and organizations. We will all have the cycle of ebbs and flows of feeling mentally fit and agile and of feeling emotionally pressured by life. The future of work will empower professionals' self-leadership to recognize and access support in those moments when it's required, and for organizations to establish supportive health and safety measures for when these situations happen. You know, there's a capitalistic narrative, which includes the private, public, and impact sectors, by the way, and it tells us that our value is in how much we do and not in our ability to do it. Protecting the health of our ability, physical, mental, emotional, and creative, becomes easily deprioritized when the capitalistic narrative is running on full blast in our belief systems. Even while we heart Instagram posts about self-care and we high-five workplaces that have the happiest employees, healthy leaders of the future will create the space for balance and support towards the organizational mission and personal well-being. What do I do now when I'm feeling the slow and gentle creep of anxiety or stress, especially when connected to work? And I mean, this is a bit of a cliched organizational tool, but the whole stop, start, continue system can work well here. And for those who don't know, it's a tool that organizations that claim to be seeking feedback use, where they ask for examples of habits or practices that they can stop, start, or continue to improve a work situation. So let's apply it here in the name of being organizationally aligned. First, stop holding back your emotions. One of the biggest causes of stress is repressed emotions and the denial of what really takes or gives to your happiness. Drop it like the bad habit that it is and find the courage to admit, if and especially only to yourself, what is getting in the way of you feeling cool, calm, and collected. It could be things within your control or things outside of your control. It doesn't really matter. The point is to give these truths the space to breathe and release the pressure and tension that your body is certainly taking on because of it. Second, start sparking joy. Let's reverse Marie Kondo this. There tends to be this narrative that self-improvement involves restricting ourselves in the name of discipline and focus. But how sustainable is that in the long term? What can be incredibly helpful is to also create habits around joy and positivity, i.e., your happiness. Mainstream and integrate happy and healthy forms of play, and think about them positively. For example, don't label what makes you happy as childish, a waste of time, or immature. It's like labeling eating chocolate as your cheat day of your diet. You're sending yourself a negative message about something you find enjoyable. For me lately, it's been cooking and recreating things I feel like eating the moment I feel like eating them, and adding my own creative flair to it. Just for fun and just to see what happens. No agenda, no pressure, no stress, just fun. And yummy. Finally, continue expressing your mental health needs. Whether it's through journaling, sharing in a safe space, or seeking professional help, make it regular practice to be able to acknowledge your feelings and tap into your joy as a way of warding off stress, anxiety, and many of its deeper psychosomatic responses. If you have deeper traumas to address, please do seek out accessible resources to effectively support you. So, once I started paying attention to addressing an issue, however small, I realized that that is already a huge act of kindness that's playing into my happiness, right? And after the example that I shared of that in-flight panic attack, it looked like me really taking a pause on my professional pursuits to get some rest and connect with doctors and health professionals for support. And while it was overwhelming at the time, the biggest tool that I take away from that was noticing that I could connect with my own compassion and make things a little less confusing and a little less overwhelming for myself in the long run based on my choices. And when it comes to the definition of success, it's very natural to experience pain and for the focus of that to be on distancing yourself as much as possible from that pain. What my anxiety and stress now show me is they teach me how to question and get curious about the root of my pain as part of my process of overcoming it. Even as a metaphor, this has massive implications for how I show up when I experience discomfort within my own body or in relationships. And all of that is self-leadership, understanding and acting in alignment towards a desired and healthier outcome. Thanks for tuning in to the Compass Audiocast, where we bridge past, present, and positive for the future of work. Please like this post if you found it useful, share it with someone who may need to hear it, and subscribe if you want to be notified when our next one comes out. Leave me a comment to share how you create time for a happier you. Thanks, and I'll see you on the next one.